The next part that we're going to make is the tail rotor. This looks like it could be a fairly complicated part, but it's actually alright once we get into it. Let's start a new part and start a sketch on the top plane, and first let's draw that inner rim. We can do this by drawing two concentric circles. The inner one is 4.8mm and the outer one is 7.4. Then do a mid-plane extrude, and the width of this is 7.8mm. And let's just call that feature hub. Before we start adding the blades, we're going to cut away that top rim at the top of the hub. So start a sketch on this top face, then select that inner circular edge and offset that outwards 0.7mm. We can then do an extruded cut, so we'll go downwards 0.8mm. And let's call that feature rim cut. Now we have this on both sides of the hub, so let's select that rim cut feature. Let's choose the top plane and then press mirror, and that preview looks good, so let's press OK. And we now have that feature on both sides of the hub. We can now actually start to draw the blade shape. So let's start another sketch on the top plane. Let's go to a normal 2 view, so we're looking directly down. Firstly, we'll add a center line because the blade is symmetrical. You can choose this from the drop down next to the line tool. Let's start from the origin and just go directly vertically up. Then let's get the line tool and start to add our actual blade shape. So I'm going to draw a profile something like this. Let's start at this point where the center line goes through the outer rim. Go directly out to the side horizontally, then go up and left, and then go sort of up and right like this, and then go back in horizontally to the middle to where the center line is. We can now mirror this half of the sketch to the other side. So if you press Ctrl A, that will select everything in the sketch. Because we've just got that one center line, we can just go to the sketch tab and we can choose mirror entities, and everything will be automatically mirrored around that center line. So you should have this sort of enclosed profile that's kind of a coffin shape. We can now start to add some dimensions. So let's get the Smart Dimension tool. The width of this first line along the bottom is 4mm. This distance here is 2.85mm. Then this widest width here is 6.7mm. And this width on the end is 5.25mm. Then the total length here is 16.8, and that should fully define your sketch. Now actually, if we look at the blade, the end of it is curved and it's a little bit longer than this. So let's select this small line here and make it for construction. You can do this by selecting the line and clicking for construction on the left. Then let's get the arc tool and let's choose a 3-point arc, and let's just go from the left hand edge here over to the right hand edge and just drag your arc out so it's something like that. And let's set the height of this arc as 1mm. So you'll have to hold down Shift to dimension to the outside of that curve. We're now also just going to extend the bottom of the sketch a little bit, so we've got a route that goes into the hub. So let's click on this first line and make that for construction. Then let's go to the line tool and let's choose a midpoint line. You can get this by going to the drop down underneath the line tool. This is a line that goes out equally in 2 directions from a midpoint. So let's zoom in, let's start about here and go out directly to the side horizontally. And make sure you don't get any of the automatic relations, so don't click on any of these curved edges of the arc. Then let's just get a normal line, and we'll start at the bottom of this diagonal line, and we'll just follow the same angle down inwards like this until you hit that new line that we just drew. We can then drag in the outer point of that midpoint line so that it touches that new diagonal line. Then let's just select that new diagonal line and also select the center line and press mirror, and then we should have that on both sides. So we should have a closed profile again. And you should have something like this. If you find that your diagonal line is wonky, if it's not lined up with the diagonal line above it, then what you can do is select both of them and choose Make Collinear. Then let's just fully define the sketch by getting Smart Dimension and adding a dimension between here and setting that as 1mm. So we just wanted a bit of extra material there to attach to the hub. And you should have a sketch that looks like this. We can now do a mid-plane extrude. So let's go to Features, Extruded Boss Base. Let's go 2.2 in size and set it as mid-plane. But before you press OK, we don't want this new blade to be merged with the hub yet because we want to add an angle to it. You can make this into a separate body by unchecking Merge Result here on the left. Then if you press OK, you can see here in the Solid Bodies folder, we've now got a 2 after it. That indicates we've got 2 bodies in the model. And if we expand that folder, we can see we've got the hub and we've also got that new blade. So these bodies aren't connected to each other and we can make changes to them separately. At this stage, I'm also just going to rename that new feature as Blade. Now, if we look from the end of the blade, it's actually got a curve to it on the top and the bottom. So to add this, let's start a sketch on the front plane. Let's go normal 2 so that you can see the blade. You might need to press normal 2 twice so that you flip your model around. Now let's get the line tool and we'll start aligning this top corner on the left and we'll go over to the top corner on the right. Then let's get the arc tool and let's get a 3-point arc. We'll start also on the left hand edge and we'll go over to the right hand edge and draw something like this. Then these two ends, so the straight line and the arc, should be lined up vertically. So select them both and press make vertical. And then the same on the right hand, they should be vertical as well. And then select the arc and select the straight line and make those tangent. So that just means that the arc exactly touches that straight line. And then the length here on the left should be 0.5. Now the ends here, they shouldn't be free to move in and out. They should be fixed to that widest part of the blade. So let's select one of those end points and let's also select this widest edge here and make those coincident. And then let's do the same on the other side. So let's select this point and also that widest outer edge and make those coincident. If you're in a normal 2 view, then you might just be able to drag those to the correct line and add that automatically, but sometimes it can be tricky to add that. And then finally, let's select these two end points of the arc and let's make those lined up horizontally. So that should fully define your sketch like that. We'll then get the line tool and we'll close the profile by adding a small line here and then the same small line on the other side. We also want to mirror this profile over to the bottom edge. So let's get a center line. Let's draw a line that goes out horizontally from the origin. And then let's just press Ctrl A to select everything in the sketch. And then let's press mirror entities. And that should mirror that profile onto the bottom side of the blade. We can now use this profile to cut away the curve of the blade. So let's go to Features, Extruded Cut. In the selected contours, let's choose those 4 areas of the profile. So there's 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom as well. For the end condition, we want to use through all going in this direction, but before you press OK, we actually only want to cut through the blade body, not the rim body. So go down to the very bottom of the property manager here on the left, and where it says feature scope, make sure you have selected bodies chosen, and then uncheck that auto select box. If you don't see the feature scope there, it means that you've just got one single body in your model. So you need to go back to when we extruded that blade, and you need to edit the feature and uncheck that merge result box. But if you do see the feature scope, let's uncheck auto select, and then let's just choose the body that we want to cut. So it's just the blade body. So you can just click on that in the graphics area, and you should see the blade body goes into the box down there. So this means the cut that we're making is only applying to that blade body. Press OK, and we can now see that we've cut the curve on the top and the bottom of the blade. Let's call that blade curve. Now we want to give a bit of an angle to this blade. So to do this, we can rotate it, but first we're going to add an axis, which will make it easier to rotate. We can add the axis using 2 planes. So first, let's select the planes that we want. So for me, it's the top plane and the right plane. So it's the 2 planes that go through the middle of the blade. So with both of those planes selected, go to the Features tab, click on the drop down underneath Reference Geometry, and choose Axis. You should get a yellow preview like this for where the axis is going to be added. If you don't see this, make sure you're on the 2 planes option here on the left, and just make sure you've got both of your planes selected there, the top plane and the right plane. And then if you press OK, that axis is added. We can now use this axis to rotate the blade. And to do this, we're going to use the Move/Copy Bodies command. You can find this in Insert, Features, Move/Copy. You can also search for commands using this search box up here on the right. To do this, first click on the drop down and make sure you're on the Commands option. And then just click in the box and start to type in the name of the command you want. So I'm going to start to type in move, so M-O-V-E, and we can see there the Move/Copy Bodies. And we can now open this tool just by clicking on it up here. We're now in the Move/Copy Body tool. If your property manager looks different to this, if it looks like this, then just go down to the very bottom and click on this box that says Translate/Rotate. So it should look something like this. First, we want to select the body that we want to move. So let's click in this box at the top, and then let's select the blade body. We can then rotate this body around. So let's go down to the Rotate menu. Let's click in the first box. This is the rotation reference, which is the point where you'll rotate your body around. So let's click in that box, and let's choose that axis that we added. We now just need to set the angle of rotation around that axis. Let's try 10 degrees, so the blade looks like that, and that's not quite enough, so let's up that to 15 degrees. And you should see a preview of the blade rotating slightly. Now make sure you don't have copy selected, that would add a second body, and then just press OK. Now the blade's at the correct angle, and we just need to pattern it around so there's 3 of them. So let's go to the Features tab, click on the drop down underneath Linear Pattern, and choose Circular Pattern. Before you do anything else, let's go down and let's click in this bodies option because we want to pattern the entire blade body. And then select that blade body to pattern. We want to set 3 instances. It should be equal spacing 360 degrees. And then we can choose the reference to pattern that body around. Click in this box at the top, and now we just need to choose a circular face in the hub. So I'm going to select this inside face, and when you do this, be careful that you don't select that axis by mistake. And you should see a preview like this. We're going to pattern that blade around 3 times. Let's press OK, and we've added those 3 new bodies there. Now if we look in the solid bodies folder, we've got 4 bodies. So we've got the hub in the middle, and then we've got the 3 rotor blades which are all separate. We can now join these bodies into a single body using the combine feature. You can find this in Insert Features Combine, and also you can use that search box on the top right if you want. So if I type in COMB, there's the combine tool. I'm going to click on that to select it. We're now in the combine tool. For the operation type, make sure you have add selected. This will just add all of the bodies together into a single body. And then for the bodies to combine, let's just choose all 4 of those bodies. So it's the internal rotor, and then it's the 3 blades. And then press OK, and now we've just got one single body again. You can then save this part, and I'm going to call mine tail rotor 30465. And let's change the color to that usual dark gray. In the next video, we'll be making the half bevel gear that actually spins the tail rotor around.